Hello, Husky Nation. In this edition of Frazier's Corner, we will be discussing 4 key areas that are affecting our department. First, the landscape of college athletics. Second, the upcoming challenges and obstacles for our department. Third, what does it cost to support the NIU student athlete? And lastly, ways that you can support our department. Let's take a look at the landscape of college athletics. You know, this gap is widening between the autonomous or Power 5 schools and the Group of 5 schools. You know, just taking a look at some of the resource gap. We're talking about in millions of dollars. Taking a look at the multimedia rights deals, the TV contracts, that's a significant gap. Look at the average of the TV and postseason revenue, $385 million, and per school payout would be close to $30 million or $29.8 million. Looking at the Group of 5 schools, there's a stark contrast and a big gap. The average, $43 million, but per school payout is 3.7. So if you look at that gap alone, that's close to $26 million gap right off the chute. And none of that seemed to be slowing up, especially on the autonomous 5. Let's take a look at the multimedia rights contracts for college athletics. You know, focusing in on the autonomous 5 and the Power 5 institutions and looking at their overall average. We're talking about 51, close to 52 million, and looking at an annual payout of somewhere around 5.8. It's interesting to take a look at their particular deals and then take a look at the Group of 5 that we're a part of in our conference. Look at a total average of close to 12 million and a payout of 1.5 million. So you look at the disparity there, just on that gap. You're talking about $4.3 million gap between that alone. And it's interesting looking at the overall gap of $39.8 million. So it's clear that from a financial standpoint, as we want to compete and we're taking a look at how to fund our programs, it's definitely a significant disparity. So the reason why the multimedia rights and quite frankly, all of the revenue streams that we have in the athletic department are so important because they all tie into the overall support for our student athletes and our coaches. Some of the things that we use our resources, maintenance and upgrades to our facilities, recruiting top-level student athletes, recruiting top-level coaches and staff, academic resources such as tutoring, athletic training and nutrition, improving the student athlete's quality of life, you know, dealing with the cost of attendance and some of the other things that NCAA new legislation, and quite frankly, making sure that we have a competitive academic and athletic experience for our student athletes. It's interesting to take a look at how the NCAA legislation has caused some of the gap or the widening of gap. Obviously, our autonomous 5, our Power 5 institutions are looking to better support their student athletes. We're trying to do that too here with the Group of 5. Some of the legislation will be called permissive. They're not binding, it's not mandated, but it's quite important to be able to be competitive with that. Some of that new legislation, like cost of attendance, you might hear that. That's the ability to provide resources for that gap that the scholarship does not cover. Some of the other legislation that's been covered, the unlimited meals and nutrition opportunities, the ability to fund parents to bowl games, things that quite frankly financially in a Group of 5 setting is very difficult for us at NIU to support. We have stepped up, one of the first in our conference, to grant and support cost of attendance scholarships. We're really proud of that. We also do pieces of the unlimited meals and nutrition opportunities. So there's some things that we've made a commitment to do because it's the right thing to do for our student athletes and quite frankly, so we can remain competitive. Let's move into the upcoming challenges and obstacles that we're currently facing in the athletic department. One of the largest obstacle that we've faced this far, especially in the last 2.5 years, has been the state appropriation of funding of higher ed and how does it affect NIU and NIU athletics specifically. It's been a lot of adversity, quite frankly. At the end of the day, our department has been asked to step up and cut resources to the tune of minimally $2.1 to $2.2 million. You know, that's a significant chunk of money from an operational budget that's just around that $30 million operational side. So if you take a look at that in totality, that's really affected the student athlete experience, obviously our coaches, recruiting, and a lot of how we operate in the athletic department. Some of the things that we've been able to do to subsidize that particular cut has all been on the backs of our donors, our supporters, our season ticket members, our corporate sponsors, and quite frankly, the generosity of folks of Husky Nation. As we move into our total operational budget and taking a look at the university's overall budget, you can see that athletics represents 6% of an overall operational budget for the university. Taking a look at our actual funds, funding sources, our auxiliary enterprises, our athletic fee, tuition waivers, university support, external funding, the NCAA conference distribution, and game guarantees, we're looking at about $28.2 million. As we take a look at our actual funds that we allocate to be able to do our operational funding, auxiliary enterprises, our salaries for our coaches and staff, our scholarships for our student athletes, our travel for competition, our operating for all that is that puts our operations on. We are excellent stewards of our resources, and we pride ourselves on making sure that our resources go for the general good for our student athletes and for the quality of experience for all involved. As we take a look at higher education, we face some serious challenges. It's not just in the state of Illinois that we're seeing higher education funding decline. That's something that's across the country. We're seeing significant reductions in state and federal aid to our public institutions. As we plan to solve our own issues, we recognize that we're 6% of the overall university expenditures. We also recognize that we are the front porch of this great university. We're not going to ask the institution or the state to provide additional funding. We're looking for support from our donors, support from our season ticket members. We're looking for a chance to be able to solve our own issues. Moving into our third area, what does it cost to support an NIU student athlete? It's extremely expensive, but the return on the investment is certainly worth it. Tuition, travel, room and board, equipment, additional fees, student athlete insurance, sports medicine, books and supplies, technology, for a grand total of somewhere in the neighborhood of $43,000 to $52,000 a year for a student athlete. And over the lifespan of 4 to 5 years of eligibility for a student athlete, we're looking at somewhere between $173,000 to $250,000. These are hard costs, but we believe in the positive impact of getting a college education for the rest of the student athletes' lives. Interesting side note, 70 of our student athletes don't receive any athletic aid. This basically means and translates $1.2 million go to NIU in support of recruitment and retention. We're really proud of being a part of the solution to help increase general students to our great university. Finally, we're going to cover how you can help. We launched our campaign to sustain last April. A lot of people ask me, why sustain? We need to sustain the success that we've already seen. I always say, there's no such thing as standing still. You're either moving forward or you're moving back. We recognize that we have a total scholarship expense of $8.1 million a year. We need to firm up our revenue streams to better serve our students and department. It's all hands on deck for our campaign to sustain. Here's additional ways on how you can help. Forever Huskies Endowment Program, Student Athlete Excellence Fund, Sports-Specific Giving, Premium Seating and Hospitality, Estate Planning, and Gift in Kind. By giving to any of these areas, you are helping us to sustain and shrink the widening gap that's quite apparent. To learn more, please go to niusustain.com. NIU has been mentioned on the local, regional, and national levels consistently during my time here. We have won the Jacoby Trophy Women's All Sports Award for the first time in school history. We've won MAC titles. We've knocked off national contenders. Our athletic department and our programs have been the ambassadors to many outside of our walls and have proven to be extremely useful tool for this institution. It is our responsibility to represent the ideals and the mission of NIU, as well as our alumni base in the best way possible. To that end, we are an active participant in the recruitment and retention of general students to our campus nationwide. Final thoughts, Husky Nation. It's time. It's time for our folks to recognize and be proud of this great university. I'm finishing up my 5th year at NIU. Me and my family have really enjoyed our time, our journey here. We know what's so special about NIU. It's about the people. It's about the students. It's about the alumni. It's about us working together to solve our issues. We have 150,000 living alums. Powerful base. We have the might. We know what it's going to have to take to move this thing forward. It's time to sustain the success that we've already seen. But we need you. We need you to step up and move this thing with us. I'm ready. Let's make this thing happen.